We're back at Set 1 SWYK 2 in our assignment 15-1. This is a hidden quadratic we're looking at, and you can see that it skips the cubic term and the linear term, so that's a giveaway that it's the hidden quadratic. We start with y squared for each of these. That's the only way we can get y to the fourth. I guess we could do y cubed and y to the first, but that's not, that would not give you the skipping of the terms that you're looking for. And then you can take the 9 and split it up. We need two things that multiply together to give us 9 that add up to -6, and that would be -3 and -3. Neither one of those is a difference of perfect squares, so it cannot be reduced. So that's as good as it gets. All right, moving on. Oops, I should probably, oh yeah, we got more work to show here on question 9. All right, so solve the equation. Given that -1, ooh, look, there was a hint. -1 is a 0. So if they gave me a hint, I'm going to use that hint. In other words, I'm going to go here to synthetic division, and I'm going to work this out, right? We always drop down the first one and make sure there's no missing terms. So I got a 1, -5, 2, 8 across the top row. I drop down the first one, and we do the multiply, and we put that above, and then we add down the column, and we get -6. And then we just keep repeating that process, the multiply and add, and the multiply and add. And we should end up with a 0. If we don't end up with a 0, then somebody lied to me about -1 being a 0. Hold on a second. So we had to get that 0 remainder, otherwise Mr. Staley's a liar, and -1 wouldn't be a 0. But I'm not. So we ended up with, if this is the remainder over here on the far right, remember we got our constant, our linear x term, and our x squared term. So x squared minus 6x plus 8 can be factored, right? We need multipliers to multiply to 8, but add up to -6. I think it would be -4 and -2. And then, of course, we know that we set each one of the factors equal to 0. Now, I have seen some kids that, just, for shorthand, they do something like this, equals 0. And then they realize, oh, okay, that's 4 for the left one and 2 for the right one. So then they, when they're easy like that, yeah, that's good enough kind of work. What just happened? So, hold on, lost my writing tool here. 4 and 2 get added to the list. All right, on question 10, they graphed it for me or give me a picture of a graph, and I can see that it crosses the x-axis at 4. So immediately, I'm going to take this third-degree polynomial, and I'm going to switch to, you guessed it, synthetic division. We got a 1 and a 5 and a -28 and a -32. And so we just did our synthetic division. We drop down the 1, multiply, add, and so forth. Just continuing on through there, we should get a remainder of 0. We did. And so we factored it with x squared plus 9x plus 8. And then we can think about, what multiplies together to give me 8, but adds up to 9, and they both have to be positive so that I can get +9 when I add them together. And so we get something like this. And so now we know that the solution that we got from the graph, now notice that this one right here, the solution from the graph, that's where the 4 came in. What are the other solutions of the graph? Well, obviously, if we set them equal to 0 and solve, we would get -8 and -1. Okay, so that takes us up to question 10. Question 11 is slightly different, but similar, right? Because what we're looking for is an x-intercept. Well, instead of graphing it for me, this time they made a table of values. And ding, 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 right there is an x-intercept. How do I know? Because the y value equals 0. If the y value equals 0, that means you're dealing with an x-intercept. So 3. We needed to use 3 in our synthetic division. And so we did the work here. We took the 3, carried down, multiplied, and continued with the whole process. And we ended up with 20x squared minus 9x plus 1. Now, you could do the Berry method on that if that's easier for you. I personally thought about it, and I thought, well, you've only got factors for 1. You're either going to the only thing you can do is -1 times -1. And the reason I know they're both negative is because they have to add up to a negative number. So I really chose these multipliers of x based on what I knew would add up to 9, or in this case, -9. So 5x minus 1 was one factor, and 4x minus 1 was the other factor. Oops, I don't need to move my face. Hold on. As you can see, I set them up. I have 5x minus 1 equals 0, 4x minus 1 equals 0. Well, so we had to add the 1, right, on both of them. We added the 1 to the other side, and then we divided. And so we could come up with these two final answers of 1/4 and 1/5. Don't need to be in any particular order. So that's that question. Moving on to question 12. I think I'm going to stop, and we'll do the rest of this in another SWYK.